We got stressed cause we're striving, surviving, keep on moving to improving, rearranging. The whole world's changing, pandemic, systemic, rule making, rule breaking, disagreeing, no we're fighting. Welcome to the Minding the Gap podcast and video series from Behavioral Sciences of Alabama. I'm Paul Bakke, licensed counselor, and I'm with Dr. David Barnhart.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Barnhart.
Good morning. Got a little rain here in Huntsville, Alabama today.
Got a little rain. Need it for the flowers and the plants in my newly COVID planted garden.
Yes.
Or I don't know if it's a garden, but it's got bushes in it and all that.
Yeah, we call that a garden.
I'm a gardener now.
Yeah.
Thanks to COVID, and so we need some rain for that. And last week we talked about, just kind of to say, talking about things that stress in our lives that provide or create gaps, and that's minding the gap. So we're trying to use our minds to fill and close the gaps that are created by these stressful kinds of situations in life. And we've talked about a lot of subjects. And last week we talked about sports parenting. And so today we're going to follow up with that and talk a little bit more about it, because we can go in so many different directions with that. And so one of the things that I was talking about was being able to enjoy it and sort of getting out of this, stress, high stress mode of feeling and thinking when my son is pitching. It's because he's in the game at a very, always going to be at a kind of a win or lose kind of situation. So you want your kids to be well.
Exactly. He's a reliever.
He's a relief pitcher, and he's a closer.
But he's not providing his dad much relief.
He is not. That's right. It's not a relief when he comes in because it's stressful and you want to do well, right? And so Absolutely. I found myself being very stressed out about it and kind of not enjoying it. So we talked about that some. And one of the things that we talked about was priming. We talked about thinking about the situation before it happens and preparing for it, especially knowing that it's going to be an emotional. You can't just stop yourself from feeling nervous or stressed when your kids are playing sports. Especially when they get to a level where it gets more important that they get to college level and high school, the higher levels. When you're playing T-ball, there's just not a lot of stress.
Yeah, but but wait a minute. This is applicable to T-ball parents as well.
You're right, because it happens. But in my perspective, he ran to the wrong base. It's hilarious. It's that, you're not getting all upset. And I actually remember talking, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did have a client who was a mother at one, this was years ago, and she was talking about her son and playing T-ball and the tension that was in the air in the game. And her son was not one of the better players and had a hard time catching the ball sometimes, like as they do at T-ball age.
Right.
My son couldn't catch the ball really until he was in kid pitch. He had a hard time catching the ball, and now he's a college player, so he's learned that
those balls hit you sometimes.
They do, and so you have flinch and things like that, and you don't know the correct way to do it. And some kids are better than that to others. But anyway, she was talking about her son, and she was stressed about the pressure that was on him, because he felt like he wasn't, contributing, and he would get down on himself and things like that. And the things that contributed to it were she's talked about one situation in the game where the ball was hit, and on the infield, he was going to cover second base, and they tossed it to him to get the out at second base, and bounced out of his glove. And the parents of his team, several of them, just started going, "Yeah, to catch the ball," and getting really upset and yelling, from the stands.
Yeah.
And she said she stood up and turned to the crowd and said, "Do you people have money on this game?" And I thought, God, That's pretty good.
That is, that is very good. Good question.
That's a good perspective to have, that, this is
Yeah.
not, but like you said, some people do take it seriously. I was okay when it was those days. The older he got, the more, the more, when it gets a little bit more, people are more skilled, and it just becomes a little bit more stressful and a little more on the line. But so anyway, so priming, all right. So
Priming.
so priming would be, preparing as much as you can for any kind of a stressful situation, and having a plan of, this is how I'm going to respond. This is how I'm going to think, even before this happens, because I know in the moment I'm going to feel stressed, and my mind might go to, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. What if the worst thing happens? It's, and that's in my mind trying to stop it from happening, which it won't. By worrying about it, it won't stop it. It will just make you miserable in the moment. And then only focus on the negative things. So, so priming would be, I took a 3x5 card, and I wrote some statements on it. And the statements were things like, COVID canceled last season. Just enjoy baseball. They're playing, right? So it's true,
Yeah.
COVID, third into the season, we were canceled our trip to Eastern Kentucky, and no more baseball, the rest of the year, so they're playing, and that's a really good perspective to kind of keep, in the moment of, oh my gosh, life or death, we got to win, we're going to lose, just enjoy the season, right? So that was one of the thoughts. And one of the things about baseball that for myself, I really liked about it was, especially hitting, was I step into the batter's box, the anticipation and not knowing what was going to happen was a big part of the fun. Big part of the fun. So for me, it would be, as a parent, the anticipation, not knowing, is fun. Enjoy the anticipation of this kind of exciting moment. It's more difficult as a parent because you're not in control. I don't have the bat, I don't have the ball to be able to do it myself. And for my son, he's fine out there. He's out there competing and just, in the moment. So, and that's another thing, is he's fine. He's doing what he wants to do. I get to watch him do what he wants to do. And then the other thing, which is a big one, is if it doesn't go well, it's okay.
Yeah.
If I can think about the worst thing that happens and accept that it might not go well, it's okay to learn from it, bounce back from it. I can't control it, those kinds of things. So I did it. So I literally had this card, and I read it every day, a few times a day. And sure enough, he gets in the game on Friday, and they're up by 2, and he's the closer, and they play at a park that's got a very short fence. So a fly ball to center field and right field is a home run, or off the fence. It's short.
Okay.
There's a creek back there. And it is that the center fielder plays, were on a regular field, he would be playing normal depth over the fence. So just a regular fly ball is a home run. So,
oh man,
it's short. So, so that's part of the thing is, even a good pitch off the end of the bat, it might be a double or it might be a home run, so it can change. That's why you see so many high scoring games.
That's what I was going to say. I saw some high scores on those games. Yeah.
So anyway, so that adds to the stress of it. He'd do well, and then off the end of the bat, games changed, So all these, so I'm got my card, and I had been priming myself enough that I didn't have to get out and read it. I just knew that it was in my pocket, and I was thinking, all right, just enjoy this, come on, John, you can do it, And luckily, I don't know if luckily, but thankfully anyway, he threw 7 pitches, got 3 outs, and we won the game. But it definitely helped me enjoy it more, to think about it beforehand and practice those things, and knowing that I had something in my pocket that I could access if I, started going the direction that would make me feel more stressed. And it helped. Now, the other interesting thing about what my experience was that I experienced, stress from parents in other ways. Okay.
Mhm.
One of them was we had a play, not all the players play, so we have parents that their kids don't get to play, and they're wanting them to play, and they're stressed out about it, and really being anxious about those kinds of things and wanting their kids to get an opportunity to play. And that happens to it. And that's happened to me before. His freshman year, he didn't pitch much. Somebody else kind of stepped up, got the role. Coach is trying to do whatever it takes to win. It's not personal. It's just, this is just the way it kind of works out. But it's difficult for parents when we show up to games, and especially when we drive a long way and your kid doesn't get to play. It's hard to keep a good perspective in that moment and not just totally focus on how bad it is or how worrisome it is that they're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another kind of issue that parents can really focus on, and priming and thinking about perspectives of team and pulling for the rest of the team and those kinds of things. And that's the kind of thing that we had to do, during that year, is to go, okay, we're just focusing on, we don't win the game. We'll, pull for the other guys, his friends, he's out there, he's involved, he may get in, he still may get in. I've had a couple of situations where some players who hadn't played a whole lot have come in, pinch hit, one hit a grand slam to win the game.
Nice.
And so you never know. You just keep showing up and you stay ready, and you never know when your opportunity can come in. So those are kind of helpful things to think about. But that's another element of stress that can happen is my son playing. And we can get so focused on that we just forget that, wait a minute, team, it's about the team. Coaches are trying to win the game. The difference is the parents don't agree with the coach on each play all the time, but
exactly
they're not asking our opinion.
They aren't. And I just thought about this. Maybe it would be useful if we had like designated parents instead of designated hitter. You send a different parent in to be the proper support, for the team.
Sure.
I'm here representing, this parent over here who can't regulate their emotional reactions. What I love about what you're doing is this is what we do. Part of what we do when we're working with people to reduce stress. So preparing for the situation, thinking about how we can think and behave in these different stressful circumstances.
Right.
And so this is like everyday application of a therapist using his own strategy for helping people regulate emotions to regulate his emotions in order to enjoy the activity.
In order to keep a helpful perspective, because I want to enjoy every second that I can, because it's going to be over.
This is it, isn't it?
It's going to be over. And he's got another year. Next year he's going to play one more year after this year as a graduate student. But then that'll be it. And it's going to be over before I know it. So I just want to maximize my experience. And I think, and that's the reason that I've got experience as a player, I got experience as a coach, and that as a parent, to help people think about their kids and the sporting event that they're in, that it can be really helpful to think about these things, because I think all of us want to enjoy it as much as possible. And if enjoyment is only if my son is successful and plays a lot, then we're just limiting that experience. And then even if they do play, if we get all wound up and worried in the moment, then we're not really enjoying it and making the most of it. So that's truly what this is about. And you can go so many directions, and I'm about to go on a different one. Okay, so let's go into the stress of winning the game, and your team is a close game. Okay, so the second game, very close game, very intense game. Little jawing back and forth between a couple of the players.
Jawing means, for those that are
Yeah, just a little
accustomed.
a little trash talk kind of stuff, like stuff, just I don't think it has any part in the game. I don't like it. I don't think you should address the other team at all. I think you just focus on your team and that's just my belief. But it happens sometimes in sports. People trash talk and get into this back and forth. So there was some tension going on between the teams and also the umpire, right? So the umpire had warned each bench about complaining about calls, saying things repeatedly to the umpires. And in college baseball, they basically, the rule is, and you need to have some kind of decorum, in sporting events to regulate, the experience for people and not make it about this big argument about everything all the time. The umpires can give warnings, and they can throw people out of the games for excessive arguing. And in fact, my son got kicked out of one game 2 years ago, but it wasn't him that was doing the arguing.
He took the hit.
He took the hit. Yeah, it was he was not active.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't going to get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the umpire made a warning and says, we hear one more word about the calls on the bench, and I'm going to eject somebody. And then he turned right around, and maybe the assistant coach said something again, something smart, or maybe it was another player, and he didn't know who it was. So he said, "All right, coach, who am I going to throw out?" So he looked at John and says, "He's out." So he took one for the team there, and he didn't get to go. He didn't get to travel to Ohio University after that because he had to be suspended, and he was innocent, right? Anyway, so that's the rule is, you can get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you'd given warnings, right? So during the jawing, one of the trash talk, one of the parents of the other team got really fired up, and their guy struck our guy out that had done some of the trash talking kind of stuff. And so he just started going, "Yeah, that's what you get. You talk, whatever. Yeah, sit him down." He starts, and my wife was in between two fans of the other team he was telling it to the other guy. And she was like, it was out in the parking lot. We can watch from the parking lot. She was going to the car, something like that. And but it was like, he was just going. He was primed to be upset.
Yes.
About whatever was happening, because it was a close game. It's intense. You want your team to win, all that stuff we talked about. So we got another situation come up where their coach goes out, had been arguing balls and strikes, goes out to argue about a call that was made on the field. And while he was out there, the umpire told him, "That's enough from the bench. I don't want to hear any more about balls and strikes, or I'm going to throw you out of the game." And he said, I don't want to do that, but I will. And so then the guy kept arguing about it. He kept going, "I don't want to throw you out." And then the guy who was upset over here, that was among the crowd there, starts yelling at the umpire and literally called him a communist. He said, "You're a communist." He starts yelling at him, telling him. And I looked at some of the other fans and I said, I've never been at any ball game and heard an umpire called a communist. It didn't. So the intensity of the moment can lead us to say things that really don't make any sense.
None, except all things should be shared.
So you had, me trying to work on enjoying things better. You have the parents that are having a hard time with their son, not playing. Sure, you had all kinds of other stressors that are going on among parents that I just didn't get to witness. And then you have one that's upset about the way the game is going and the umpire. And the only thing I can figure out that, as we talk about this, we don't have all the information, our minds make it up. So my best guess at why he called him a communist was that he was taking away his freedom of speech. He was going to throw him out of the game if he argued, so that's as close as, I'm going to go with that one. I'm just going to go with that one.
Let's make some sense out of it. Okay.
To make some sense out of it. But the other thing that didn't make any sense is he called him a German communist, which I didn't, that one, and I think it just goes to show that when you're that upset and you're
Yeah.
that focused on being angry, that you're really not thinking rationally and connecting dots
No,
and
no.
thinking about history and,
You c-
where the communists are and where they're not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, so those are just examples of how, and this was, here I talked about it last week. I said, hey, I'm going to work on this. This is for me. And hey, anybody that's watching this, I know you can relate in some kind of way if you've got a kid that plays sports.
Oh, sure.
Then I go to one game and all these three things happen, even to the point of somebody screaming about the umpire being a communist that's not even from America, that, and then, okay, I'm going to go beyond it because when you're thinking about this, if I was just watching and listening to the story, I would think, God, that guy has got wow, he must be whatever. Saw him later out in town, and I had my hands full, and he said, oh, let me get the door for you. So he was, made a nice gesture, and he has opposing stuff on. I recognized him. I had mine on. I said, yeah, good game today, because they had won that game. The next day. Yeah. So it was a better game for us today. And smiled and had a nice little pleasantry and going on my day. So someone who gets upset and says things like, like those things that we go,
what's wrong with
that's
that?
not every piece of that person that they're and I was talking to one of the players about it at the time, that was out with us, and I said, it just goes to show that's not all of the person's personality and their character. And he even finished my sentence. He says, yeah, he just got caught up in the moment.
Just caught up in the moment.
So if we know what moments that we tend to get caught up in, and we respond in some kind of way that's not helpful, priming, thinking about it beforehand, is helpful, and it gives you a lot better chance to enjoy the activity, which is what's it's all for, and keep you from someone going on a YouTube video and talking about your behavior.
Exactly.
Because it was right out there for me to go, all right, I'm gonna talk about this issue as an example that's a real life one.
It is a very, very real life one.
Yeah. And so you go to any ballpark and you're going to see some of the same, here's some of the stuff, and somebody.
Yeah, it's true of any activity where you have kids involved and performance involved.
Right.
So it could be dance, it could be acting.
Sure. Same thing. My daughter was in theater. If she didn't get the role that she wanted, it was hard to deal with.
Yes.
She it's competitive. It's bottom line though is the people who are making those decisions are trying to do what's best for the production or the or the game or whatever it is. They're doing what they think is best in the moment, and parents are just not always going to agree, because there's some kids that are going to be left out or have lesser roles or don't play as much or what have you. And it's tough to deal with. So the more we can prime ourselves.
Yes.
With
I got my card right here.
Yeah, good. The more we can prime ourselves, and I've also added this too, because we've talked about this, is the HEAL method. We've talked about this in other videos and in our practice too. The HEAL method would be a strategy and a method to enjoy an experience. So HEAL, the H would be have a positive experience.
Yeah, have a positive experience. Look for it.
That's an action word. Have. Do it on purpose. Enjoy this moment that this is positive. So we're at a ball game. It's nice weather out. Sun is out. It's COVID canceled last year. Gosh, it's great that we're even here. The anticipation is awesome. You know, it's like, it's the palpable, it's in there, it's tense, but it's fun. You know, there's a line between anxiety and stress and excitement. You know, sometimes there's a tipping line there that we can kind of spill over to, this is exciting, instead of, oh crap, you know, this may be bad. E would stand for expand it, make it bigger. Wow.
Yeah,
This
it
is
lasts
awesome.
longer.
Yeah, let me last longer. Let me really think about the impact on it. And you know, it's a great lesson for him, and he's been on team, and he's getting a chance to experience success and failure, and it's, you know, and it's just really great. And oh man, and look at the mountains around us. Wow, the surrounding stuff around the scenery of it. You know, I'm just going to picture that in my mind and remember that. It's just really beautiful kind of stuff. So you just make it as big as you can. A would be amplify it, make it, feel it more. You know, really concentrate on how it feels to have the sun on me, and the feeling of that I'm in my heart, that my heart's pounding, and it's, and whatever the pleasure that I'm getting from the surrounding areas, and really feel this moment as much as I can. And then the L, I really like this one, is link it to other positive experiences. So I can link it to other experiences, previous games that he's played in, games that I've played in that have been enjoyable, that are good memories. And now if I'm thinking about those other experiences, I'm actually experiencing them in my mind. And it makes it this big positive experience that will make you feel good in the moment. And if you feel good in the moment, whatever stress happens is a little easier to deal with.
Buffered.
Buffered. So not only are we, you know, can we prime ourselves with thinking and behavioral responses to stress triggers in whatever way there it is that come up. If we use the heal method and really focus on enjoying that experience, it just makes life more fun. And I'm all about making life more fun.
It's a good plan. It's a good plan. So we all should get a 3x5 card.
3x5 card. Doesn't matter what the situation is. Write up your thoughts, think about them, read them, have them there. And then what may happen is you need to read it more in the beginning. And then during the moment, you might have to get it out and look at it. And then the next time you may just go, okay, I'm going to reach in my pocket and feel it and go, okay, I know I'm there. And then as you practice it more and more, you might not even need the card. It's just going to be
a way
of dealing with stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's often goes against our conditioning and our nature. And so sometimes it takes some work, and it takes some priming.
Yes, it does.
And we can observe how it's affecting other people as we're around us. And we can look at them and go, you think if I gave them a card that with some positive thoughts, that maybe that would help them?
Here's a card for you. Let me suggest this. Maybe not in that exact moment.
Not in that moment. Not in that moment. Not in that moment. That would be perceived as a threat in the moment, because they're already primed to be ultra sensitive and for threats.
Exactly. You know, so we went through this whole thing, and we didn't say that this fan was, you know, affiliated with any particular school.
That's right.
So, yeah. So it could be anybody, anywhere.
That's right. It could be anybody. Yeah, it could be anybody. It could, can be our fans aren't any better than those fans. You know what I mean? It's just, you got to put people from everywhere, and it's going to happen everywhere. But the bottom line is, it's, oftentimes it's not about a character flaw and, this person is a bad person or whatever. They're just over responding in the moment because something really means a lot, and they just lose perspective, like we all do when we get angry. And then we look back on it and go, God, I can't believe I said that. What was I thinking? I was in caveman I was just caught up in the moment. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't
Yeah.
ready for it. And that's the thing, that's the whole thing, is getting ready for it, just like we would practice for a game.
Right.
We mentioned that a lot.
Yes. Well, I like the concept of perspective taking. Maybe we would do one of these broadcasts on perspective taking, how to do that, how to take perspectives.
That would fit very well in that line. All right. Any other comments on it?
I love that. I think that's a great example. And thanks for self-disclosing. I think that kind of sharing makes it possible to come in and talk to somebody that has also lived experience.
That's right. Yeah. It's I know it's difficult for our clients, and it's difficult for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as long as you're a human being, we're subject to getting emotional about things and responding in ways that aren't helpful.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what profession you're in. But it is a good reminder for me, just working with it. It's a reminder that I've got to keep working on it for myself. So there's definitely a big benefit for me that, if I'm telling somebody, giving recommendations, I need to be following what I'm asking somebody else to do.
That's true. That's true. So we learned that early in graduate training, is don't ask people to do anything that you haven't tried yourself. We have to have a real appreciation for how difficult it is, and then we can talk with some authority and confidence. Yes, I do this too, and it works 75% of the time.
Yeah.
Nice work.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So thanks
right.
everybody for watching. Comment, subscribe. How many subscribers do we have now?
The last time I looked, it was like 47. I don't
We need to get
I
to
don't
50.
know.
We're
I
almost
know.
halfway to our goal.
Yeah, we need to get to 100. So if you subscribe and have somebody else subscribe, then you'll help us. You'll help us get there.
All right. Well, signing off from Behavioral Sciences. This is the Minding the Gap podcast, and the YouTube video. We'll I keep calling it a podcast. We need to.
Well, that's what we call it on the YouTube channel. It's called
Okay.
Minding the Gap podcast.
Okay. Well, that's what it is then. And so we're signing off from that, and I hope you all have a great week.
All right. Take care, Paul.
We got stressed 'cause we're striving, surviving, keep on moving to improving, rearranging.